Alright, I am not sure why that keeps dropping. Alright, we're back. I don't know why the app keeps dropping. So I'm working on coming up with a pattern to add material in here so that this person can fit. And so I kind of have a little bit of a wireframe for the shoulders, and actually this one came out of the shoulder. The dragon's got extra room there. Yeah, there we go. That's better. But now I have to decide whether I want to add all the material in the back or if I want to put some material in the front. That's a little bit more work because I'll have to basically cut and add 3 sections versus 1. But the problem is I'm worried if I do all of it in the back, then it might look a little bit funny because all this extra, you basically have this big add-on in the back. Because, you know, basically I'm changing the shape of this thing, but I still want it to look aesthetically pleasing once I add the material to it. So it's a little bit tricky to do. If you're only adding a little bit, it's not as hard, but the more you add, the more you're changing the shape. And so I'm hoping I can do this and still make it look fairly decent. And the tricky thing is, you know, the person's not here, so I can't have them like try things on. I hope that I ship this thing and it fits. So it's a little bit tricky. Now it looks like I can do pretty good up here in the upper body. I think where I might have to maybe add a little bit of extra in the front is maybe just for like the belly area, because that's where I need to expand more than the rest. So I think what I might do is start making the pattern kind of from the midsection up just for this back, and I can kind of tape that off. So what I'll do is I have some plastic that I can use. Actually, it's these giant Ziploc bags that I ship the suits in, and I can kind of use this as a pattern. May actually go this way, since I'm not really planning on going all the way down with it. I might go long ways from side to side. Now, I'm working with the actual measurements, so I want to leave a little bit of room. I don't want this to be like a cat suit, so we're going to make it so that it fits, but it's, you know, it's got some room to move. And plus you want air to be able to get in between areas too. I'm going to go towards the tighter side because I don't want to make it any bigger than I need to because I'm worried about how this is going to look. So I'm going to make it comfortable, but not like relaxed fit, if you know what I mean. So this piece here is the shoulders, and they line up with the dragon shoulders, and there's a lot of extra room out here because the shoulders actually protrude from the body. So as long as I make sure that the customer shoulders line up, that the height of these dragon shoulders are at the height of the person, then we can really use that to our advantage because their shoulders will fit inside the dragons. But we also have to accommodate the chest, which is right here. So there's kind of two factors. That's why I've got these two different rings here. So really, I'm probably a little more concerned about the chest. That's more of a limiting factor because the shoulders fit over into the dragon's shoulder, so that gives me a lot of extra room. The limiting factor is the chest. So that's the only one that looks like that I really need to be concerned with here. I want to make sure that my piece of plastic that I've put in here doesn't have any excess in it. It needs to be the same length as I do this. And so what I may do is put my hand in here and kind of guide this because I want it to line up. I'm going to be making a template from this. So we want that to be the same length because I'm going to use that to cut a piece to actually fit in here. This is probably one of the trickiest parts. The gluing of the material in here is actually a little bit easier than this part. Just figuring out the template is kind of a bit of work. If you order from somebody like Hung Yi or Bailey, they actually will 3D model, and we might eventually get to that point. But right now, you know, this is just a fun thing, and we're having fun, and it's not a huge business yet, although we're getting quite a bit of orders and a lot of interest. Now, I want to watch my angle here. I want this to be symmetrical. So I'm going to make sure that I'm fairly symmetrical with how I'm doing this. It just means that our seams are going to be, you know, symmetrical when you look at it. But that's important. All right, that's looking pretty good. So at least we're getting the upper body taken care of here. kind of stuff a little bit of more material down in that area to kind of poof it out. So right now I'm just worried about this kind of upper body, and then I'm going to come back and after I get this finished, I'll work on this lower part. But I think what I may have to do is go ahead and open up the two seams on the front on either side of the belly to allow some expansion there as well, because I think it's going to be too much if I do it all in the back. Might have to go get some more towels or blankets to kind of help fill this out a little bit more. And of course, when it's all done, I always just take the flexible tape measure and double check some of my measurements once we get it filled out. Make sure that it's matching up with what the customer gave us. All right, I'm only going to go down to about there, and then I'm going to stop. Go ahead and kind of fill this in so that I can pack it a little bit tighter. And in fact, I might go ahead and run this along there. I get asked a lot why the Angel Dragon costs so much. And it's because even if you are a small human, I still have to do this right here. It just changes the size, but the dragon is not big enough for any human really to fit in. It's just too small. So, before I get too carried away, I'm going to kind of check this part of it and see how we're doing, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark on the plastic in case something pops loose. Make sure I capture this properly. So we're going to double check this against some of the measurements. And the first one was the shoulder width is 23, and we can accommodate up to about 25, so that's good. And then we want to check let's check the neck. That's supposed to be 20. we're about 22. That's good. All right, let's check the shoulder circumference. It's supposed to be 54. And actually, I don't have the shoulders completely stuffed, but they could actually do probably about 58, so that's good. Now the chest, 46. That's going to be right under the arms. We've got 50. Okay, 46 to 50, that's good. So that's good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to mark this. And I kind of screwed myself a little bit with putting this tape here. Kind of peel it off a little bit and at least get some marks here and there. Kind of draw a little bit of the squiggly just so I know kind of where I'm cutting off on this part of the pattern. I'll leave that in place. And now I'm going to work on this lower part. Actually, I need to get some more material to stuff in there. I suppose I could probably use another angel dragon. I've got several of them here. I wonder if that's the right amount of material that I need. I need to put a piece of tape down here because the vinyl tore along one of the factory seams, and eventually that's going to be difficult to try to get measurements if it tears open. So we'll put this tape on here to hold that in place for the time being. That definitely helps. Need a little bit more. Might be too much to use another angel dragon, so I might go get some more blankets. Okay, no more blankets, but more clothes. So here's the trick, and I got to figure this out. I need to probably flip this over and cut some of the seams loose in the front. So that's going to be interesting. I don't really want to dump all this stuff out. I might, maybe I'll put some plastic over it and tape it off, flip it over, and then, you know, maybe kind of shift some of the material. I think that might be the best plan. Yep. So I'll go ahead and tape this in place. This will eventually become my lower part of my template, but for now I'm just going to use it to hold all of my laundry in there so that I can flip this thing over. You know, it's funny too that people complain about how expensive some of the suits are, and it's because of the amount of time that goes into it. So I like posting these videos so that people can see how to do it, and they can build it themselves if they want to. Because really, this is for fun for me. And if somebody wants to build their own, I'll gladly give advice. And I haven't taken any money from this business. For me, it's just fun. I pay my crafters well. They make $20 an hour. So I think people think that I'm like raking in the money, but that's not really true. And I'm happy to show how to do it, and if people want to build their own, that's awesome. So I'm just securing this with tape so that I can flip it over, and I'm going to cut some of the factory seams on the front. And then I'm going to eventually come back and redo this plastic on the back so that I can get a template out of it. But for now, it's just going to be sort of a placeholder, just to keep everything together. Alright, so let's see if I can get this thing flipped over. I'm going to try to keep my little hoop wireframe in the right spot. Alright. So what I'm looking to do, now this is the inside. That's why there's a white band here. This was, I did this yesterday. This is how I extended the torso length. I cut it in half and added this in here. This is the inside layer, so you won't see this white. On the outside layer, I of course have only white here, and then this is blue that way. Now, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to add some material. Basically, I'm going to cut these loose just a certain length, and it'll allow this to pull out and widen a little bit up here. So I'm going to pinch it and cut it. And really, it's going to need to go about in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Bring it down to about the middle of the leg hole. Alright, so now we can really let this breathe a little bit here. And I'm thinking I need to go up just a little bit higher here. You know, till about right there. It's got an hourglass shape to it, so I think if I kind of get rid of some of that hourglass, that'll help quite a bit. That takes it up. Yeah. There we go. That's significantly better. So now I should be able to shift quite a bit of this material and make some patterns for the front. And I'll do that with another piece of plastic. Ideally, if I can make these the same, I might try to come up with a pattern that'll fit both places so that's symmetrical. All right, let's see if I can kind of trace out something that'll work for both of these. What I'm going to do is of course it'll end up being a piece wider than this because I need extra to overlap. But yeah, that's actually right on the money for that side too. So what I can do is plan on having some extra material here. Kind of roughly cutting this out. I can trace that onto the piece of material and then kind of clean it up just a little bit. That's pretty good. So I'll do 2 of those. Actually 4 of them because I have to do this exact same pattern for the outside layer as well, so I have to do it twice. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this back over. And now that I can kind of relieve some of that in the front, I can shift some of this in the back. So I'm going to try to save my tape. It's still pretty sticky. One measurement I'll have to double check too once I kind of get this all stuffed is the torso height, which I've already calculated and estimated that the best that I can when I expanded the midsection, but it's good to double check that. But it needs to be 38 inches, and I just have to make sure that I'm still hitting that, because when the person takes that measurement, they're going from their crotch around their belly up to their top of their shoulder. So the belly kind of feeds into that. It's not just the linear torso height. It's kind of that curve thrown into it. So we want to make sure that we're at least meeting that requirement. Alright, so that's almost loose. Got a couple more here. We're actually building two of these right now. I'm building this one, and one of my other crafters, I started it for him, and then he's taking it over. It doesn't have to have quite as much of an expansion in the back. His did not have to have the height adjustment for the torso, so it was a little bit less work. I decided to take this one since it's a little more elaborate. So before I put that in there, I'm going to just kind of work with this here and kind of shift some things around. Now that we have the relief in the front, we've got we can make this a little bit easier here in the back, which is nice. And I do need to take some extra measurements. I need to get some more stuff to stuff this with, it looks like. Now it's official. I have to finish this part of the project tonight because I will have no clean laundry. I'm using all my clean clothes that I just finished washing to do this. I'm basically going to try to kind of fill in the hips a little bit, because they get to stick out from the body. Humans don't need quite that much hip, because they're usually not like that big of a difference on the hips from their waist. So there's always a lot of extra room there. Alright, I think this will do it. Before I start sealing that up, I'm going to check a couple things here. want to try to make sure that I can accommodate about 54 inches, and that's really kind of about here, so I kind of need to stuff a little bit more in here. Still a little bit. You definitely want to err on the larger side than the smaller side, because larger, no big deal, it just inflates bigger, but if it's not large enough, then the person can't fit. So I'd much rather have this too big than not big enough. All right. Yay! Right on the money. And then hips are really honestly not even probably worth checking, because they're wider anyways. Yeah, I mean, we're talking 60, so I'm not really too concerned about that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and make my second template, the lower part here. And I'm going to label this before I get too far. Upper. And then lower. So I'm going to try to get this shoved in here. And then we gotta hope we can find that much material. It might be pieces. I have a third dragon that was purchased just for material, and then I also have some tails and arms and legs from previous angel dragons. All right, time to tape. What I'm going to do is make some marks across both sheets, because I want to be able to put these back together. We want to make sure there's no wrinkles in the plastic, because this is going to become a new piece of material that we pull in there, and you don't want it to be skewed, which will make it, you know, longer or shorter than it really needs to be. Most likely longer, because it's going to wrinkle and end up longer. And also kind of want to take a look and make sure that I'm symmetrical, because this is ultimately how it's going to look. And looks pretty good. One thing I want to do is make sure that this looks good. That's where that mid seam is going to go. Let's see here. Kind of shift this stuff around to make it a little more symmetrical. A little bit there, and this is come across. Yeah, there we go. All right. Make sure that we can still do our 54. right there, we got a little bit of, I need to, I think I squashed some of this stuff down, and lost some of my circumference. So that's why I like to keep double checking, triple checking, because I don't want to make this too small. I need to be here, and I still have a little bit of a gap there. So that's okay. I want this to be right. Again, I would rather err on the side of too big than not big enough. Too big is fine because it just inflates larger, but not big enough could be a real problem. I'm going to get everything situated because it seemed like it was after I got things situated that it was a different size. Okay. Yay! Yeah, that's what I want to see. All right. In fact, before I even put the tape down, if this looks pretty symmetrical, I'm going to go ahead and mark this. Now we have our template. Actually, before I rip that all out, I did want to check the torso height. So, actually, I'm going to probably need to put some of these back on. I'm going to flip this over. Should have thought about that before I started ripping everything off. Need some of these just to keep everything intact so I can flip it. Maybe one more. All right. We are right at 38 inches. So not a lot of wiggle room, but we're there. 30, actually 39. Yeah, 38, 39. So that's good. That's very good. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, and I'm going to cut some material. So that is one of the hardest parts done. There's still a lot of work to do. Not only do I have to cut this piece twice, as well as the two front pieces 4 times, 2 for the inner layer, 2 for the outer layer, put this in, but I also have to reinforce all of these factory seams that are on the torso because they will tear. And I've learned that because the very first suit that we made, I did not do that, and I've had to patch it numerous times. That's the one that I wear, and ever since that first prototype, we've then reinforced all the torso seams and not had any problems. So it's a good bit extra work. I honestly think I'm probably not charging enough for this suit. Because I only work nights and weekends, it'll take me about 3 weeks to build one of these. All right. So that is my template. I'll actually have a little bit of a piece that goes up into the head, but that I can actually sort of just do on the fly once I get the rest of the material in place. So there is my template. And how well you can see it. Let's see. I'm pretty much done with this for now, so I'm going to put this on the floor. It'll be interesting to compare this here. So we've got this pattern here, and then the last one that I made was there. So actually kind of a similar shape and it's sort of a similar proportion, just smaller. So that was the last angel dragon I did. I like to keep them just sort of for reference. So one thing I usually like to do is fold it in half to kind of check my symmetry. Because generally it'll be close, but it'll never be quite right on the money. One thing I can do is I can actually kind of average the two if I want to go ahead and kind of fix the symmetry. And the way that you do that is you fold it down the middle, and then you can basically create a line midway. And so I think I'm going to probably do that. And I usually kind of err towards the outer one so that it kind of averages high. Just drawing kind of a midline. This will eventually become the zipper down the back. Then give give myself about an inch, which is actually where the blue tape is. So if I cut on the other side of this blue tape, then I've got my inch measured off, which is kind of convenient. The blue painter's tape is kind of nice because you can use it for measuring out, you know, if you're cutting a strip or something and you want a nice straight strip and you want it to be an inch wide, well, then you just throw down some painter's tape and use that as your template. Lose some of this tape. I don't really need it anymore. And there's my two templates, front and back. Alright, well, I think I'm going to take a break for now, and then I'll start cutting some material here, either later tonight or tomorrow. So thanks for joining in and checking out the crafting. You get to see how a pattern is made based on the suit and the dimensions that the customer gives. So, bye for now.